The most overhyped driver in golf is not a bad driver. That is exactly what makes this conversation uncomfortable. It is the driver that makes you spend $600 on a breakthrough your scorecard never actually sees. Every year, the same story gets told with different materials. New carbon, new AI, new face architecture, tour validated, distance optimized. And every year, thousands of golfers feel that pull. Maybe this one. Maybe this is the driver that finally fixes the tee box. You know the moment. You hit one in the bay, the sound was right, the number on the screen looked better than anything your current driver has ever produced. You bought it. First round, you striped one down the middle, and it rolled out farther than expected. That one shot confirmed everything. But 10 rounds later, the slice was still there. The Mishits were still losing 40 yards. The dispersion pattern looked almost identical to before. And then 3 months after you paid full price, you saw the same driver on sale for $200 less. You did not buy a better driving game. You bought the best ball from a fitting session and paid full retail for the story wrapped around it. That is what overhyped means in this market. Not broken, not fraudulent. Just a driver where the marketing improved faster than your average tee shot. Today we are ranking 10 drivers from most overhyped to best real value. Not worst to best, because most of these are genuinely good clubs. The question is how much performance you actually receive after the marketing is removed from the price tag. That is a different question, and it has a different answer. This channel runs these rankings without a tour contract in the room. Subscribe now, you will want the next one before your next equipment decision. But before the ranking starts, there is one thing you need to understand about the modern driver market. It changes everything on this list. Modern drivers are already operating near the performance limits set by the rules of golf. The USGA regulates how much energy a face can transfer to the ball. Most premium drivers from the last several years are sitting right beneath that ceiling, which means the room left for a genuine revolution is much smaller than the launch campaigns suggest. Your game has Mishits. It has off-center strikes, swing speed that varies between nines, launch angles that change depending on how you teed the ball. The driver that performed brilliantly in the fitting bay was working under conditions that almost never exist on the course. For most mid and high handicappers, the honest improvement in average driving from one premium flagship to the next is measured in small numbers. Sometimes 3 yards, sometimes a slightly tighter miss, sometimes mostly sound and feel and the confidence of owning the newest thing. What actually moves the needle is loft, shaft weight, shaft flex, face angle, and strike location. A correctly fit driver from 3 years ago will outperform a wrongly fit driver from this season on almost every metric that matters on the scorecard. Fitting beats flagships. The industry does not build launch events around that sentence. With that in mind, number 10. TaylorMade, the key 10 generation and the cycle it represents. Let's be clear, TaylorMade makes exceptional drivers. The engineering is real. The tour presence is earned. The problem is the cycle. A new flagship arrives almost every year, each one accompanied by language designed to make the previous model feel obsolete. The golfer who bought the Stealth 2 at full price and then the Key 10 at full price spent over $1,000 in under 2 years on drivers that, for most swing profiles, produced nearly identical results on the course. The previous TaylorMade does not stop working because this year's model arrived with a louder adjective. Buy it one generation back at a significant discount. The performance gap for most amateurs is minimal. The price difference is not. Number 9. Callaway, the Paradigm and Eye Smoke generation. Callaway's engineering is legitimate. AI-designed faces and carbon chassis construction are not empty claims. The issue is how the technology gets sold. When artificial intelligence becomes the primary marketing narrative, the expectation created is almost impossible to meet on the course. The golfer hears AI and thinks transformation. What they receive is a driver that is genuinely good, but not categorically different from what the previous Callaway flagship was already delivering. If you are in a well-fit Callaway driver, the most important question before upgrading is simple. Where specifically is your current driver failing you? If the honest answer is nowhere obvious, the upgrade is mostly narrative. Number 8. PXG. PXG built one of the most distinctive identities in golf, the all-black aesthetic, the premium positioning. And for a period, the price points were genuinely extreme, which created a perception of exclusivity the brand leaned into deliberately. The problem is what happens when the discounts start. PXG has become well known for aggressive promotional pricing and sales that significantly undercut the original retail. If the driver was worth $800 in October and $400 in December, the original price was not really the price. It was an anchor. The resale market is weak, the promotional cycle is unpredictable, and the performance gap between a PXG driver and a well-fit Cobra or Srixon at half the cost is not wide enough to justify the original ask. Number 7. Titleist, the TSR and GT lines. Titleist has earned its reputation. The TSR series was a genuine evolution for a brand that spent years as a driver afterthought. These are serious clubs with real performance credentials. The nuance is the profile they serve best. Titleist drivers reward consistency. They are precise instruments for players who make repeatable contact and benefit from refined spin and workability. For a golfer above a 15 handicap fighting a slice and losing distance on Mishits, a Titleist driver is rarely the most efficient investment. There are options further up this list that deliver more practical forgiveness for that player at a lower price. Titleist gets you refinement. Sometimes what you actually need is margin. Number 6. Ping V430 and G440. Ping is one of the most reliable names in the driver market. The G430 and G440 deliver genuine forgiveness, stable ball flight, and a fitting system that is among the best in the industry. For a certain golfer, particularly someone who wants fewer surprises and a brand they can trust across a long equipment relationship, Ping makes complete sense. The friction is value. When Cobra and Srixon are delivering performance that competes directly with the G series at meaningfully lower price points, the premium for the Pingyo logo becomes harder to defend. Pingyo is the driver you buy when you want fewer surprises, but fewer surprises can still be expensive. Here is the thing this ranking cannot do on its own. It can show you which drivers are priced above their performance for your profile, but it cannot walk you through every slot in your bag, identify which specific variables are costing you the most off the tee, and give you a repeatable framework for the next purchase decision and the one after that. That is what the Smart Bag Blueprint was built for. It covers the full 14-club decision framework across 7 equipment categories, including a dedicated section on driver selection criteria that goes beyond brand loyalty and swing speed charts. Golfers who have gone through it stop buying upgrade cycles and start buying fits. The link is in the description and pinned in the comments. Scan the QR code on screen now if you are watching on a TV. Go to thesmartbagblueprint.com now before the next launch campaign lands in your inbox. Number 5. Cobra Darkspeed and Aerojet. This is where the value conversation starts. Cobra has been quietly delivering performance that competes with TaylorMade and Callaway for years without charging the same price for the privilege. The Darkspeed and Aerojet lines offer real speed, solid forgiveness, and modern adjustability at price points that regularly come in below the flagship competition. The brand still carries a perception gap, meaning many golfers overlook it because it does not have the same tour saturation. That gap is the opportunity. Cobra is what happens when the performance catches the giants before the golfer's ego catches up. Number 4. Srixon ZDX and ZDX Make Thu. Srixon does not have the marketing budget of TaylorMade or the tour visibility of Callaway. What it has is a driver that consistently performs well in independent testing and gets quietly recommended by fitters who care more about results than brand relationships. The ZDX and ZDX Make It Hate offer stable ball flight, solid forgiveness on off-center hits, and a clean look at address that better players tend to appreciate. The brand is still more associated with irons and golf balls in most golfers' minds, which means the driver gets overlooked. That is a mistake. Srixon does not need to win the commercial. It just needs one honest session on a launch monitor without brand bias. Number 3. Tour Edge Hot Launch and Exotics. The Hot Launch line in particular is designed for players who want ease, forgiveness, and launch without paying a premium for tour aesthetics. The exotics line steps up in performance and price but still comes in below the flagship competition from the major brands. Tour Edge is not trying to win your bag check on social media. It is trying to make the next tee shot less stressful. For a large portion of the golfing population, that is worth more than carbon fiber storytelling. Number 2. Wilson Dynapower and Staff Drivers. Wilson is carrying a reputation problem that its current equipment does not deserve. Most golfers still associate the brand with entry-level clubs and discount bins, which is a perception stuck somewhere in the early 2000s. The Dynapower and Staff driver lines are genuinely competitive. Independent testing has placed them alongside drivers costing significantly more, and fitters who carry Wilson report that players who test without seeing the logo are frequently surprised by the result. The gap between what Wilson drivers deliver and what golfers assume they deliver is one of the widest in the market right now. That gap is entirely a branding problem, not a performance problem. Wilson drivers are not secretly good because nobody talks about them. Nobody talks about them because too many golfers still think the logo tells the whole story. You have watched this far. That means you already think differently than the average golfer walking into a pro shop. But thinking differently in here and deciding differently out there are two separate things. The next time a new release lands, the feelings come back. The display looks good. The fitting bay number is impressive. And the framework you need to evaluate it clearly is either already in your head or it is not. The Smart Bag Blueprint builds that framework across 14 clubs and 7 equipment categories, including exactly the driver evaluation criteria this ranking is based on. Golfers who go through it describe making their next purchase with a clarity they have never had before and not regretting it 3 months later when the sale price hits. The link is in the description and pinned in the comments. The QR code is on screen right now. Go to thesmartbagblueprint.com now. The decision you make next is either informed or it is not. You are close enough to make it informed. Number 1. Sub 70 and Malt B component builds. This is the one that will lose some people. Not because the argument is weak, but because it requires accepting something the industry works very hard to prevent you from accepting. That a significant portion of what you pay for in a premium driver has nothing to do with the club hitting the ball. Sub 70 and Malt B operate on a direct-to-consumer or component build model. You are not paying for tour contracts. You are not paying for retail floor space or national advertising campaigns or the feeling of owning what the #1 player in the world put in the bag. You are paying for a head, a shaft, a grip, and a build that is matched to your actual swing. The result is a driver that often competes directly with flagships costing 2 or 3 times as much, assembled around your specific loft, shaft weight, flex, and length requirements. This approach requires more from the buyer. You need to know your numbers, or be willing to find out. You need to be comfortable buying a driver that nobody at your club will immediately recognize. You need to care more about your dispersion pattern than your head cover conversation. That is not every golfer. But for the golfer who is willing to do that work, Sub 70 and Malt B represent the most honest value proposition in the driver market. The best driver is not the one with the biggest promise. It is the one where the most money goes into the club and the least goes into making you feel safe buying it. If any driver on this list is sitting in your bag right now, drop it in the comments and tell me whether your experience matches the ranking. Hit like if this changed how you think about the next purchase. Subscribe if you are not already in, because the next breakdown goes even further into what the equipment market prefers you never calculate. Here is the rule this entire ranking points toward. Stop buying the driver with the loudest launch. Start buying the driver that makes your normal miss smaller for the least amount of money. Your best drive in a fitting session is not your game. Your average drive on a Sunday morning, with pressure on, after a 3-putt on the previous hole, that is your game. Buy for that golfer. Not the one standing on a perfect mat in a climate-controlled bay. The brands at the top of this list are not your enemies. They make real products with real technology. But they are also running businesses that depend on you believing the next generation is necessary. It usually is not. The driver you need is almost always less expensive, less famous, and more honest than the one currently sitting under the spotlight at your local shop. Send this to someone in your group who is about to spend full retail on a new release, the one you already thought of. They will either thank you or never speak to you again. Either way, you did the right thing. Subscribe before you go, because the next video goes deeper into what this one started. The golfer who gets there first has a real edge the next time that launch email lands. That is the golfer this channel is built for.